Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a nice day. We're glad to bring you back another episode of Behind the Curtain, where we have deeper discussions and conversations around some of these interesting topics that, we're going to discuss in upcoming episodes or we've previously discussed in episodes. And again, keeping in line with the, roots after university, we're talking about PhDs today. And we've got an amazing guest speaker today. We've got an amazing topic for you today. But as I say, I don't want to bore you with the details about the guest speaker myself. I want you to hear from them. So I'm going to pass over to Aaron, who is our guest speaker today. Aaron, could you just tell us a bit about you?
Oh, yeah, sure. No problem. As Jeffrey's introduced, my name's Aaron. I'm currently a PhD student, or as the posh term we like to use, doctoral researcher at Brunel University. I'm only about 6 months into my PhD, so very new. And my topic of interest, or what I'm specializing in, so to say, is in the field of AI and neuroscience. I have a background in aerospace engineering, but moved on to a master's in psychology, which is very hard to explain to people, but it was just a massive paradigm shift that I had in my life. And now I'm back in the field of engineering, essentially combining psychology and engineering together. And that's it, really, so far.
No, that's perfect. And it's great to see, that's one thing we like to say as well on the podcast, that, life takes you different routes. And it's great to see that with your journey, you haven't stuck to one particular route, you've gone where your interests have taken you. And if, after trying something, you didn't like it, you went back to what you knew and you realized you found like a renewed passion for it, I guess, which is great to see. And I guess officially the title for today's episode is looking at, PhDs in mental health. And, as a podcast team, we love to talk about mental health services and, the importance of looking after our mental health. We've had a few episodes on that, as well as, our I guess, resident expert on the team is what I'd like to call him, Samuel. But essentially, our first official question to you, Aaron, is, you spoke about you're doing a PhD at the moment, you're a doctoral researcher, and essentially, why did you decide that a PhD was what you wanted to do?
Well, what it was when I did my master's in psychology, I was fortunate enough to do a dissertation, my master's thesis on a very interesting topic, which is essentially looking at how we could reduce depression via the use of transcranial alternate current stimulation. There are methods that are currently used at the moment for those who don't respond to general antidepressant medication. So one of them is transcranial magnetic stimulation, and they also have transcranial direct current stimulation. But this was a new one with the alternate current. And essentially, it was just a data from a few participants. And I was fortunate enough to be able to analyze this data, essentially just EEG signals, which are electrical signals which flow around your brain due to your neurons firing. And this information can be processed because it's an electric signal. So what I was able to do was able to bring in my passion of engineering, but more in the computational science aspect of things. So I was able to use those skills that I used from my undergraduate degree and to use them in my master's. What happened is through that journey of my thesis, I had a new passion come about, because originally I wanted to go into being a therapist. But doing all of this kind of work, just using the mathematics, neuroscience, all combined in one, and I had a great supervisor as well, I was able to build up a passion for this field. And what kind of happened later was I was emailing professors and lecturers all up and down the country. Only a handful replied. My supervisor in Brunel now, he basically took a keen interest, more than the other lecturers and professors I emailed. And then from there, the rest is kind of self-explanatory. Ended up joining Brunel. Originally, I thought I was going to do a lot of neuroscience stuff, but just for the time being, just kind of building up my knowledge, learning new skills along the way, trying to meet new people like yourself and to, kind of explore the different avenues that are available. So yeah, I mean, but my main reason for doing a PhD, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else at that point in time anyway. I couldn't see myself going into corporate because I did corporate for about 3 months or so. It wasn't for me. Maybe it will be a bit later in my life, but for now, I'm really happy that I'm doing this PhD. I've met some great people along the way, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to what the next 3 years hold.
Wow, that's really inspiring and really great, Aaron, to hear, because I'm sure our listeners can definitely attain to, I guess, seeing that impact that your education can have on, like, not only your future career itself, but how the stuff that you learn, like you were talking about, your engineering and the bits you did on psychology, how that can essentially help impact and improve people's lives in the future. And I think that's a really key thing that as a student myself, I definitely can agree that it's so key to essentially see that, because I think that's something that sometimes we do forget, that we feel like we learn stuff in the classroom or we do stuff as coursework, but we don't actually see the real world applications and how it actually can impact people. But yeah, it's great to hear that. And I guess sort of like adding on to that question, is, you spoke about your academic journey essentially, and we previously had another guest who we asked them this question about essentially how did their undergrad and their masters prepare them for their PhD. And we'd love to ask you the same question. How did your undergrad and your masters prepare you for the PhD that you're currently doing?
Well, with my undergraduate degree, I did that up in Uni of Manchester. And how it prepared me was the skill set. It was, learning how to program, learning how to think very logically and think very creatively, which is a big thing. So kind of thinking outside the box, what solutions can we bring to, for example, reduce the amount of fuel that's used on an aircraft, or how can we improve a rocket system, for instance? It'll be things like that. But that way of thinking really helped, academically wise. I would like to touch on actually what else you learned. That was my first time living away from home. I live in Chigwell, so in Essex, which is very far from Manchester. It's probably about a 4.5 hour car journey. But kind of learning to live on my own, learning to be independent. Those were massive skills that really helped to shape an individual, I think, especially at a young age, which a lot of undergraduate students who I'm sure are watching this podcast anyway will be experiencing. And, it's through kind of doing things yourself that you kind of really discover who you are and what your interests and your passion are. It goes very, very deep, I think, with people. But I think that's probably one of the most important things that you can do. And obviously you're meeting people along the way as well. Some will come, some will stay, some will go. But ultimately, there will be a handful of people that you do stay in touch with. And, having that kind of connections with people can really help as well. Being able to expand your networking, expanding your knowledge, even as little as even something like culturally, being in the UK, you learn about different cultures, for instance, because you have people from all over the world coming to study here. So you learn about the world, what opportunities lie outside of the UK as well. And I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking about that as well. With my master's, it was very much a similar thing, except I was living at home at that point. But again, learning a lot of new things, especially about psychology, moving from engineering to a psychology field, massive shift. Instead of learning about objects and, we're learning about people now. And and that was a very, fulfilling experience as well. I was able to learn about what causes us to be the way we are, for instance, what Why do we hold certain opinions of things? Why do we have certain ways of thinking? And how is it that our environment influences who we are? So, you learn a lot about that in, the theoretical side, whatever, what have you. But also when you start to think about, actually, why am I the way I am now? And when you use all that knowledge that I had got in psychology to understanding that, you learn about yourself even more, which allows you to really pursue your passions. And I think that's where I decided to do a PhD, because I finally decided I have a strong passion now where I couldn't see myself doing anything else, and I went for it. And I guess that would be like a key milestone for many people in their lives as well. So yeah, I mean, as well as academic, there's so much more, living on your own and that kind of thing as well, as I've mentioned.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that it's key that you said that, I guess, especially when it comes to university, sometimes we get focused more on the academics and, what skills and stuff we get. But like you said, you do gain, that networking. You do gain, like you said, some lifelong friends. You do get to, I guess, experience, for some people, I guess, life away from home. Like you said, some people have only lived with family for most of their lives, so this is their first time, I guess, living by themselves or living independently. Some people, like you said, especially for international students, this is the first time that they've traveled to another country to even study, so it's a completely different experience. And yeah, I think, like you said, it's just all these things that you do gain can definitely help you prepare you for different things in the future. And that sort of nicely leads on to our next question for you, Aaron. And essentially, it might seem like an obvious question, but I think, especially over the last 2 years, I think people can definitely agree it's a very important one. And essentially, our question to you is, why is it important to look after our own mental health?
It's a strong question. I mean, if I sort of touch on from the previous question, one thing that I did struggle with in Manchester, because I was living away from home, I was very homesick. And also along that journey, when I was doing my undergraduate, a lot of unexpected things occurred in my life, and that caused me to really have some difficulties in my mental health as well. And I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling the same way, all over the world. I mean, I've got some stats here. They're saying that mental health problems are one of the main causes of overall diseases worldwide. Mental health and behavior problems are thought to be the primary drivers of disabilities. Major depression is thought to be the second leading cause of disability worldwide. And that 1 in 6 people in the past week have experienced a common mental health problem. That's just from the Mental Health Foundation website. That's just a few statistics, but it's obviously this is a big thing which is being on the news more often now, thankfully, and it's being addressed now. So we can see that it's very common with people. It's not something that happens once in a blue moon to people. It's really out there now. Mental health. Why is it important to look after it? Well, if we don't look after our mental health, essentially we just have a body which is not really able to do much. With studying neuroscience in that area, your brain controls many things, a lot of things. So, and you've got to think of it as, as if you're going to the gym, for instance. Looking after your mental health is the gym for your brain, you could say. And, that allows you to perform in, have great productivity in your life, great relationships, also reducing things like heart disease. Heart disease is very much linked with stress now. So there are a lot of health problems, physical health problems that come when you're not looking after your mental health properly. So by looking after your mental health, you're ensuring that you're running this machine of a body in the best way we possibly can. And I think that's crucial, because if we want to be able to have the life that we dream of every day, to be able to do things that we always tell ourselves, I want to do this, I want to do that, but we never end up doing it. If you want to end up doing that, you really have to exercise your mind. And, you know, and it's not to say that even somebody who does this every day, it's not to say that they will never experience a mental health problem. You know, it's kind of one of these things which is, you could say, inevitable in many cases. But by being consistent in your daily life, having a routine and eating well, you know, just the very small things our parents tell us when we're small, you know, don't eat too many chocolates, you know, even something like eating a salad once in a while, or drinking plenty of water every day, you know, exercising, finding a hobby, socializing, meditation's a massive thing which has come up, you know, in recent years. You know, so there's a reason why it's becoming a big thing now, because people are seeing a difference in their lives when they look after their mental health. And, you know, and you see a lot of people coming from zero to hero by just looking after their mental health. By looking after their mental health, they want to look after their physical health. And it's a never ending cycle of success at this point. But you've got to start somewhere. And I think that's a big difficulty for people. But if they can understand that having any difficulties in life is just part of life, it's part of a healing process where you're developing your character, especially for people who are starting university. You know, we've heard about mental health being a big thing there. You know, a lot of that difficulty is necessary. It's absolutely necessary for your development, so that you're understanding the things which you don't like, the things which you do like. You know, a lot of the time when we're feeling down or upset, our body's sending us a message. It's kind of like if you eat too many chilies and your stomach's hurting, and that's a message, don't eat too many in the future. So you've got to listen to your body, listen to those messages, and really try to do the best you can with that information. And, you know, there is so much information out there now. You know, we have the internet on our fingertips, you know, about how can we look after mental health. And there's so many opportunities that universities are providing for people now, local community centres, you know, all this kind of thing. So it's, you know, there are a lot of opportunities out there, but looking after your mental health is a really important thing to be able to, you know, have the life that we all kind of dream of, really. And it doesn't just have to be around, you know, this idea of money. It can just even be being very content. Contentment is a huge thing to master. It's very difficult, but once mastered, you know, and I say mastered lightly because at times we could always say, oh, I want more. But if we can kind of just be really grateful for where we are now, you know, we see on the news with this war in Ukraine now, we see how many people are homeless, and we kind of look at ourselves, wow, I'm able to sit here, I've got electricity, I've got food, I've got water, I've got clothes on my back. You know, I'm going to school or university, I've got a job. Just these little things, and then just being grateful in itself is a hard skill to master. But if we can all master that, mental health will be very different for people. And from that, that's when we can begin to grow.
Yeah, and I think it's key to emphasize, like you said, that essentially it's you know, I'm not saying that, you know, for some mental health issues or you know, you shouldn't take simple steps, but for some things, it is just like you said, it's just about doing simple things, whether it's, you know, we spoke about in previous episodes as a team, like what we do and what we've done. And we were saying things like whether it's like going for like you said, like going for a gratitude walk, you know, just walking around, especially, you know, through nature can help. So like going through parks and stuff, and just, you know, really, I guess, taking everything in. You know, like you said, we do have a tendency to find it easier to complain about things and moan about, you know, when things don't go our way, than seeing, you know, some of the things that we've got that others don't. And I think, like you said, it's just getting into that mindset of not necessarily seeing every situation as a negative, or seeing it, you know, I'm not saying that in every situation there'll never be a negative. Of course, there most likely will be, but it's about changing your viewpoint of, you know, there might be a negative, but what's the positive out of this situation? And I think, especially like you said, for uni students, that's something that we sometimes tend to forget. especially when it comes to like getting results, or, you know, whether it comes to, you know, thinking about, you know, because I know some people, especially, you know, if they're in third year or going into third year, they might be thinking, okay, so I need to get, you know, 70% on this exam. I need to get like 80% on this exam if I want to get first, because if I don't get first, then it means that I can't get into this job. And it's like what you said, that, you know, all you can do is essentially try your best. If things don't work out, they don't work out, but it's not essentially letting whatever happened, you know, define you. At the end of the day, you know, like you said, you can look after your mental health. You can take steps, which I guess in typical fashion nicely leads on to the last question that we've got for you today, Aaron. Which is essentially, what do you do to look? I guess it's a two-parter. Their answers might be similar, so that's why I said if they are the same, that's perfectly fine. But essentially, what do you do to look after your mental health? I guess would be the first one, and then the second one would be, what do you do when you're feeling stressed?
To look after my mental health, what do I do? I should be doing more, I feel, but generally one of the things I do is I love to play golf. You know, again, as you kind of mentioned earlier, Jeffrey, you mentioned about going out, having a gratitude walk, being outside in nature. My sister always tells me to do that, which I should do more. Yeah, kind of, you know, playing a sport. I love playing golf, you know. Yes, it can be difficult at times, but, you know, it's just great to get out in nature, to enjoy the nice weather if we ever do have it, which we are getting now slowly. Kind of going for walks, I guess, reading, just relaxing, just sometimes just being away from everything and just kind of sitting there for a few moments, maybe even half an hour sometimes, just thinking about, you know, things. Meditation, I should do more. But, you know, otherwise, in terms of my mental health, it's just, like, again, for me, my work, if I didn't have a purpose, that would really affect me. So I think having a purpose for me really stops me from going downhill, because I'm waking up every day with a reason. Why am I actually getting up today? I've got a reason to. And it's not just to pass my PhD, it's to do, you know, come on these podcasts, try and help someone if I can, whether it's my volunteering, whether it's helping a friend, or, you know, a load of different multitude of things. I like to spend time with people as well. Although, funnily enough, I'm not the most social person, but I try. I make a really active effort to be social. And it's so tiring for me. But I know if I don't do that, my mental health will be very bad. So I try to do that as much as I can, and try to do it with people who have that kind of same mentality as I do. And everyone has a different mentality. And as I said earlier, some people will stay, some people will go, and that's absolutely fine. That's just part of life. But, you know, those are the main kind of things I do. I mean, really, when helping someone, whether it's on the helpline that I help with, or anything else I can try to do, even if it's just speaking to a friend who wants to let off some steam for a day, you know, that feeling I get of helping someone, there's nothing better. And that really helps my mental health. And, you know, trying to just stay active, trying to have a consistent routine, you know, trying to get up and sleep at the same time every day, which I should be doing more of. And, you know, kind of just taking regular breaks from work. And sometimes it could be like, you know, go and watch a film. I don't know, spend time with family. I think really, you know, family can be difficult. And I'm sure a lot of people can agree with this. But, you know, it's very important if you have got family out there to, you know, stay in touch with them. You know, that's very good for your mental health as well. Staying in touch with, you know, friends from maybe your A levels or from childhood, maybe get in touch with them, see how they're doing. And another thing with mental health, for me, it's always been about my way of thinking more than doing things. Like golf has been a massive part. Golf has really helped me, you know, get out the house for a few minutes. But a lot of issues that I had with my mental health previously was because of the way I was seeing things. And just really changing those, really working hard at those every day makes a big difference. And, another one is like, as you said, seeing, the light at the end of the tunnel, or it could be something like helping somebody else, as I said earlier, or, any of those kind of things, just really simple things. And, bad things will happen to you, but how do you overcome them? Overcoming these obstacles says something of the character of a person. So being able to see these obstacles as character development is a massive thing. And every successful person in life, whatever anyone's definition of success is, or anyone they look up to, has to go through these struggles. It's kind of, it's a given. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Even the richest people in the world, in terms of wealth, let's say, have difficulties. The poorest people in the world have difficulties. Everyone's got their own difficulties, no matter what background they come from, race, religion, whatever. Everyone's got their own problems, but it's about how they overcome those problems. And so really, I would say for me, it's more about how I process things that happen. But for other people, it could really be something like meditation. So, for example, I know a few people, including my sister, who love meditation. They'll do it every day. Meditation, I've tried it. It's not for me. But because something doesn't work for me, doesn't mean it's not going to work for someone else. And I stress that heavily, because you will hear a lot of advice on mental health. Do meditation, do this, do that. But you've got to find what works for you. And I think an important thing for mental health is to explore. You have to explore lots of things. If they don't work for you, don't do it again. But if they do work for you, carry on doing it. And what's going to work for someone else will not work for me, because we are all uniquely different. And that's something else I learned in psychology about our uniqueness as individuals. So I think it's really about exploring everything, exploring the avenues, especially while you're young, while you haven't got, the responsibility of children or marriage or a house or anything, although some people do. But if you don't, really take that time to explore yourself before you make those big commitments in life, because life really does pass you by. It really does. And if it's passing you by quickly, you're doing something well. That means you're staying busy, you're enjoying every moment of your life. And when I say enjoying it, I mean, if you are stressed with work, then that can be considered a part of enjoying, I guess, being in the moment anyway. So, yeah. There was a second part to your question, but I forgot it.
No, that's all right. The second part was about what do you do when you feel stressed, Aaron? But I think, okay. if you're more than welcome to answer, but is it anything different from what you said already?
I think with being stressed, now that is a good one. I may have covered it before. I may be repeating myself a few times. But just really analyzing the situation. If I am stressed about something, just taking a step back, really thinking objectively, not just thinking from my own ego, my own self-centeredness, but thinking about things from others' view. And that's very difficult for me. I really struggle with empathy massively, but I've got to make an effort. You've got to make an effort. If, for example, you walk in one day to work, university, wherever it may be, someone bumps into you and is having an argument at you, why did you push into me? And you're a bit upset, you're a bit annoyed about it, but taking a step back and thinking, maybe this person's having a bad day. It's nothing I've done wrong. It's not the end of the world. Let's just move on. Let me not get provoked. It's not saying anything about me. It's the situation. I'm not going to let a situation define me, as you said, Jeffrey, earlier. So really that kind of mentality, really having an objective mentality, because it's very easy for us to get stuck in our own problems in life. But the problem with doing that is it may be very helpful, but can also work to a big detriment, because everything does become revolved around you sometimes. We can become very selfish and think, why is this person saying this? Why is my boss not happy at me? Why is things just not going my way today? And it could be for a multitude of reasons other than yourself. And I think if you can do that, then you stop having this idea of self-pity or self-centeredness and kind of think, actually, it's just part of life. It is what it is. But it's not to say that there are people, because there are people out there who really do struggle with mental health because of if they've been born with certain conditions or things like this. But again, the same kind of advice applies to those people as well, because they will still have their difficulties, as everyone does in their life. But by implementing strategies that you find work for you, you can reduce the level that a lot of things in life will bother you with, and it'll really allow you just to focus on work, focus on other things, like I said, friends, family, relationships, etc., which are very fulfilling in their own ways.
Yeah, and I think that's you raised a lot of really great points, and definitely round of applause to you, Aaron, because I think our listeners definitely will feel impacted and feel like they've learned something, because I know 100% I can, when you were saying things about the different steps about looking after what you do for your own mental health, of it's not one shoe fits all of, hey, I don't know, someone in your class might do, like you said, meditation. Another person might go for walks in the park. Another person might just go to the gym, and that's what they do to look after their mental health. Another person, like you said, might just feel really comfortable on doing things by themselves, whether that's going to like restaurants or museums or, the theater, or watch movies by themselves. And yeah, I think that's essentially it. At the end of the day, you just need to find your thing, that works for you, and whatever it is, that that's going to be the habit that can help you, if things are, feeling stressed, or if you want to, just take a mental break. It's definitely so key. I think another thing that I wanted to add was essentially what you were saying about, when you're stressed, pause, analyze the situation. I think it's definitely very key. I think especially, sometimes as students, but I guess it also works in, the working world as well. That sometimes, we get into the habit of just, I guess, like you said, losing time. We don't necessarily plan out our time well. It might even not be us, but it might just be, deadlines have been piled on, or, we didn't get information at the right time and things like that. And essentially, I think, like you said, it's just about, just taking that deep breath, stopping what you're doing, and then just thinking like, okay, this is what I need to do. How am I going to do it? Because as simple as that sounds, 100%, we tend to forget that. I think what you said reminded me of something that I heard when I was back at secondary school in an assembly. And it was literally just before, I think, our year 11 exams. And one of the deputy heads there was just saying of this story about essentially, I think it is emus. He said when emus are stressed, they essentially just put their head in the sand, and that's it. They just just put their head in the sand, won't be doing anything. And I think that really stuck with me, because then, like a few weeks later, one of my teachers, it was GCSE time, things were getting stressed, and I was just not really sure of like how to tackle the revision schedule. And that was one of the things that my teachers said to me, that, hey, just think about it. You're not trying to be an emu in the situation. You don't want to put your head in the sand, but how can you evaluate what you need to do? So how can you, look at, this is the deadline, or this is the target that I need to reach. How can my steps from now to that target essentially help me to reach that? And I think that's really key. That's something that we tend to forget. That's something that we don't always do. And it's just like we said, it's all about just saying, hey, this is essentially what I'm trying to do. This is how I'm going to get there. This is, the steps I need to take. I think, like you said, having a schedule is definitely a great thing. I've been trying to stick to a schedule like you, and it can be tough, but it is good. And I know for some people, especially, for some students, I know there are students, and myself included, who are not big fans of 9 a.m. lectures. But essentially, no, it is good to have like a schedule. And I know that, like, for me personally, especially like COVID did get in the way of that, because I was no longer, commuting onto campus. I was just waking up, joining, getting ready for the day, joining the lecture, and that's it. There's no, time in between traveling to and from campus. But essentially, it's like you said, of keeping up that routine, because if you say, I don't know, you're going to wake up early one day, and then you're going to make sure that, you know, by, let's say, 8 or 9 or even 10 p.m., you're going to sleep. Then you can be like, okay, so this is how many hours I've got in the day. This is what I need to get done today. How am I going to essentially ensure that I'm utilizing every hour, every minute to ensure that, hey, by the end of the day, I'm able to tick off most of the stuff on my to-do list. And I think that that's one of the things that I know friends have told me. I've told friends as well, that, you know, especially with everything online, it can be very easy to get distracted, but it's all about just saying, hey, look, you know, and there's loads of apps. I know on like my Android phone, and I know that they've got it also on Apple phones as well. There's focus mode. So you can say, hey, between like 12 and 2, I want to be fully focused. I know that I went to an event where a speaker was saying that he keeps his phone essentially either on focus mode or off, you know, in a completely different room for till 12 p.m. In the afternoon, because he was essentially saying, you know, he wants his morning to essentially be dedicated to work. He can ensure that he's, you know, not distracted. He's doing things that he's supposed to be doing. And it's the same thing. And it's just taking, like you said, these easy steps to address this. But yeah, I just want to, I guess we've come to the end of the episode, and I want to say a huge thank you to you, Aaron. It's been really great listening to, you know, the advice that you've given. You know, it's been interesting to learn a bit more about you. And essentially, I guess before you go, you know, some of our listeners, our audience might be thinking, wow, you know, I really liked what Aaron was saying. How can I get in contact with him for further information? Or they might say, oh, actually, I have a question for Aaron that I'd love to ask him. Yeah, how can they, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I guess email would be a good one. I don't tend to use social media too much. And I've got a LinkedIn as well. So my email is just my name, aaron.sharma@brunel.ac.uk. And my LinkedIn, you'll just search my name, Aaron Sharma, and I should come up. It'll say my title, Doctor Researcher at Brunel University, and get in touch with me there. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Yeah, just before I leave, thank you so much, Jeffrey, and pick up the mic, the team as well, for letting me come on here and, you know, give my advice and opinions about things. Maybe people agree, maybe people disagree, but as I said, not one size doesn't fit all. And I always say to anyone, always do what works for you. You know, always do what works for you. And maybe somebody might say, oh, that's not the right thing. But whatever works for you, you should just carry on doing. And if somebody has a problem about that, then that's their problem. Always stick to your own guns, stick to your values, your views of things. You know, if we have a world with no diversity of views, you know, not just by the way we look, but in terms of how we think and our opinions, then the world doesn't go around. So it's absolutely okay to be different from others. It's absolutely okay to have crazy ambitions. Never let anyone deter you from that. But again, that is a thing you would have to absolutely analyze within yourself, and never be afraid to seek advice. There is so much help out there now. If you know anyone or a family member who is struggling with addictions, with mental health issues, physical health issues, whatever, seek the support, because it's there for you. It's all about if you want to take it. And yeah, that's it really. Again, thank you very much, everyone. Again, thank you, Jeffrey, and the Pick Up the Mic team. And I look forward to answering any questions, and hope to see anyone on campus as well.
That's really great, Aaron. And thank you. Thank you again for being a guest on the podcast. You know, if you want to listen to the full episode with Aaron, feel free to subscribe to our Patreon page, and you'll get it there. If you did like the episode, like, comment, and subscribe is always appreciated. We've added a review part to our Linktree account, so you can have reviews as well now. So we'd always appreciate your reviews, because that helps us to know where you want us to go in the future. We'd really appreciate all your support. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode of Behind the Curtain. So that's a bye from us here. We wish you all the best, and have a wonderful day.